What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking through tonight's monster, massive NBA slate. I feel like for this winning the tournament tonight, you should get $1 million, not $100,000 for the big.
Absolutely,
it's so much craziness, and the crazy part about it, though, at first glance, and this is obviously going to change drastically, there is not one piece of interesting true value. On a 12-game slate, the odds of that happening, even just in the morning, even though we know this is all going to change.
Zero.
Have we seen that on a like a 6-game?
You know what? We talked about this yesterday in a call that we had with our site guy. He wanted to know how to, he wanted to figure out how to highlight different like point per dollar rankings and stuff like that. And he's like, what's usually like good? What's usually a lot? And we kind of talked about, well, is it enough to say 7x, 6x, or maybe you need 7x or whatever it is? Can I tell you something? They're like, how many players are there on the slate tonight? 150,000 players. I don't have a single guy projecting over 6x at noon.
And the other thing is, obviously, that is going to change. Like, right?
It is, but it's not yet.
Well, let's do the best we have with what we got so far, and I'll be live at 5:45 Eastern. Guys, please like and subscribe to these videos. We really appreciate the likes, especially for those who've already subscribed. And we'll be coming out with a PGA video also. I'll also be live at 5:45. I'm assuming Sheets can join me at 6 because you can't leave me this mess alone.
No. The other thing I would say, one of the things I really want to work on is, I wanted to do this starting like a year ago, but I just keep forgetting, is to make like even if I can remember to do it, like a short video of just like best take and worst take from like the day before.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun. So I would love to go back to my that was a dissertation, to my comment on the Nets last night, where I said, listen, if you're gonna play Kyrie, you should have played him when they were playing in Boston. Tonight is not the night to play Kyrie.
Right, and of course he goes out for 50, which is his next
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll take the big L on Durant. I didn't know that Kyrie was going to turn into another human being again and like really take over. But again, look, I'm not going to make excuses. I was wrong. It didn't work.
Well, dude, I'm watching the score, and I don't know. I see Durant with a snowflake, and the Nets up 20. I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
Like,
Kyrie, Bruce Brown show. Geez, and Andre Drummond.
Yes.
Another one that I was sort of iffy on being right and wrong because I wanted some exposure and not enough. And
but
I would have been right though about the DraftKings idea.
Yeah,
I would have been absolutely right with that idea, and I was absolutely right about Darius Garland. Other than that, I had a rough night.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the first game. It's a good game pace environment for Boston. Charlotte on the back-to-back. I don't think there's any way I could play unless someone's out, someone on Charlotte, except for maybe Terry Rozier, and it is a revenge game, and he's put up like $1 million every single game now. I don't know what we at. Like his price is $8K. It dropped, but it's hard not to have interest in him at first look. Other than that, on Boston, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Horford all seem fine. I like Brown in this kind of pace game. It's hard for me to get to Tatum at 10-4. Sheets, that's my sort of rundown for this game. What do you got?
This is going to be the problem, right? Because you'd like to play, I don't know if you'd like to, but it'd be nice to be able to play Jaylen Brown. I'm not David Jones, but Jason Tatum. But in the absence of value, it's going to be tough. So I do think that of those guys you mentioned, I think Jaylen Brown's certainly the most reasonable. I think you could certainly get to him. I mean, listen, if you can't get to an 8K guy, then you just
let's pull up your screen while we do this.
Oh, right. If you can't get to an 8K guy, then we got other problems. But so you'll be able to get to him, and it is still a good high pace matchup. So I like that. As I mentioned earlier, nothing's showing up as a particularly good value. I'm kind of hoping something like maybe Horford sits and you can play Robert Williams or something, because aside from that, there's not a lot to do here on the Boston side. But I think Jaylen Brown is totally reasonable top 10 play tonight, if you want to know the truth.
At the moment, yeah, and he's going to be unowned by the time it actually kicks off. I mean, maybe not unowned, but he'll be low owned by the time it actually kicks off, is my guess.
And on the Charlotte side, Celtics, as we've been talking about, have been pretty tough, and Charlotte's totally healthy. So you have a team that's totally healthy against a team that's tough on defense. It's not easy.
Yeah, except for Hayward, but again, Hayward's been out for a while, so yeah, I hear you. But the one thing
he's back. So yeah, right.
Hayward's not back. Rozier is like just absolutely on one of his kicks. Now he's shooting the ball well. And he always crushes the Celtics but especially in Boston, like he just tends to shoot the ball. Like he had 22 shots in his last game against Boston. That's more than he's taken, except for an all ball, I think one game this year, which was an overtime game, I believe. He's be the guy I like, he and Brown, and we want to try and keep it simple on the giant slates. Sure, other guys might be interesting, like Robert Williams. Like I think that's a huge field tournament play that you could use in this situation, but I just don't think I'm going to do it realistically. So I'm just going to talk about who I'm realistically looking at. Let's take Chicago and Detroit. What do you got here?
Rated very similarly to Jaylen Brown are both DeRozan and Vooch. So again, I can only just start with these middling builds, right? So that's where we're going to start with. So I think DeRozan's a good play, or I think Vooch is a good play. I wouldn't spend 18,000 on both of them together, but I could certainly play one of the two. So I do like that. And on the Detroit side, I imagine that the top piece of value, at least right now, is Marvin Bagley. And I'll say this though, I mean, if Marvin Bagley somehow goes off like really, really popular, I don't know if I want to do that at 5K. Not because I don't think he's a good play, but it's such a huge slate.
Go ahead.
So aside from that, I like Cunningham just looks okay. I really not much on Detroit. What do you think about Bagley? What do you think about Cunningham? I presume you don't like anything else.
Without Isaiah Stewart, I think Bagley does get a bump here. And
sure.
But the thing is, the people were playing him even before that, sort of on speculation that he's going to take over more of the role. And I think he's completely in play. He's a guy we like to play. Like you said, we tend not to want to play him at crazy high ownership or anything like that. I really think with the way that the Bulls have mostly guarded, the problem is you might get to Sanmu on him. But every time I think anything to worry about with Cade, like this guy just keeps putting up the monster games. So I feel like this is a spot to have like a Cade on FanDuel. Like I'm going to have a Cade and Levine run back is my plan. And on DraftKings, I'm going to have some Bagley. And if Vooch plays, I'm okay with Vooch, but I'm kind of a little bit out on the other guys in this game. Personally, I just think that there's better plays in the slate. You could argue for Desonmu in those minutes, but I think that it's too big a slate for me to structure it too much. All right, so let's talk about the Phoenix. And we want to point out Koba, who's awesome in chat, but he just posted the thing that said, "Boy, wouldn't it be nice to have the 222s on these slates because of the amount of different builds you could make?" And I always agree with that. I don't know why the NBA does. And for some reason, like FanDuel makes like the smallest tournaments the nights where there's the biggest slates. I don't know. I'd rather see a smaller buy-in with lots of different options of ways you could build, because you're going to have to run really, really good to win tonight. All right. Phoenix and Miami. Sheets, I'd love for you to start here because it depends on whether Devin Booker plays, obviously. But if Booker doesn't play, I think we just go back to Payne, even in a tough matchup, although I worry about this game staying close. What are your thoughts in this game?
Yeah, so that's the first thing, is that Devin Booker, I just looked at he has a questionable tag as opposed to being out. I mean, he's in COVID protocols. I don't know whether he had COVID or he had COVID protocols or whatever it is. And if he's in, it's like obviously a different situation. But if he's out, I'm actually, at least on early look, I'm off of all these guys from Phoenix.
If he's in,
even if he's out.
Okay.
I mean, Payne is now 6,500.
Payne could be 9K easily.
I get it. But he's 6,500 against Miami. I'm just what I'm looking. I'm looking at. I would literally have zero of anybody from Phoenix like right now, based on what's showing up there. But that's projecting, like you said, that's projecting Booker in. Obviously, according to my numbers, I'm projecting him as in right now, which is a little weird. I don't know. Bobby, I don't know if I could do Payne at 6,500 against Miami. We'll I don't want to say fight about that. We'll talk about that if Booker is out, but I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, we could talk about if Booker is out. I think that he's gonna be a virtual it's like him on FanDuel yesterday. Like I don't care who cares what his price, like who cares what his name is.
Well,
like,
I mean, it matters, right? I mean,
no, it doesn't. He gets if you watch them play, he literally gets all of everything is him on a high screen and roll with Ayton or something. It's like I said about Bridges, the more you watch it, like you can always take shots on him because somebody's gonna have to take shots on this team, but he does nothing. Like none of these guys even dribble in and try and create a shot except for Payne and except for Ayton. They're the only people who they run the offense through. So with his usage being like, you could like Payne versus Cade, for example. Payne, I would take it the same price as Cade in almost any matchup, or close to the same price. I mean, he really that team, if they stay close, it's all because of him. Like without,
but then again, I mean, it is a back-to-back in Miami is not.
Yeah, I'm worried about the game staying close in general unless Booker plays, and even if Booker plays, I still think this game could be a little bit ugly in Miami's favor, and it's sort of keeping me off of the Miami guys. I'm just saying that we shouldn't look at the price with Payne at 6,500 and shy away in general. Like it's a bad matchup. But again, the bad matchup, they're still going to have to lean on if the game stays close, that means they have to lean on their best players even more. I don't know. It's going to be hard to take him out of the game. He's not that, it's just, to me personally, it feels like an automatic, like 40 to 50 with upside. But if the game stays close, and that's a big if.
I like the two guys on Miami again, though. I like Bam and Butler. I mean, not as much as say Jaylen Brown, though. You know, I prefer Jaylen Brown at 8K to Butler at 8,600. But Butler, you know, of all the guys in Miami, I do like those two. And both of them are going to be. Looks like they're going to be low owned. I mean, everybody's going to be low owned tonight. Then LeBron ruled out again, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I like Bam and Butler, and nobody else from Miami, and maybe not even Bam or Butler.
Yeah, I'm not very interested in Miami tonight with everybody back. All right, Lakers and Houston. Well, LeBron playing would be a kind of a relevant piece of information, and this is one where I will throw out the recent results, and just go with matchup. Westbrook is still going to be in play on for me on FanDuel either way. I just don't think he's going to be this efficient every time out. If LeBron is out, he's in play. I'm not saying I'm going to lock him in, but with all these guys, like I think LeBron is in play at 11-6. We haven't seen the Lakers like really dominate a team in a while, but I can't really find like we have, you know, everybody who I like on Houston is questionable, which means if Tate or Wood are out, Sengun is going to be in a huge portion of my lineups. Actually, no matter if Wood's out, Sengun is I'm just going to be playing him in a majority of my lineups probably. That's it. I really don't see Garrison Matthews. We talk about he's a questionable. Sean Tate's really cheap, questionable. I don't really know what to do, and Schroeder is legit questionable. So I don't know what else to do other than I will play Sengun here, and I expect him to put up 40 plus if Wood is out.
Yeah, I got Tate as a value play if he plays on Houston. But I would love to. Hey, I'd like to play LeBron tonight. You know what I mean? He had the day off, whatever you want to call that. And you know, good matchup. He's trying to put the team on the back as much as he can. I think he's going to play as many minutes as needed to put the game away. If they're even going to be favored, I mean, who the hell knows, right?
No, they're favored. Yeah, they're favored.
Yeah. But I do like him. If I can get him in, that would be very fortunate.
Yeah, I can get behind LeBron more on FanDuel. It's a little harder for me on DraftKings, personally. All right, Atlanta, Minnesota, which is a game that we should probably have interest in because
Atlanta, Milwaukee.
I'm sorry, Atlanta, Milwaukee, because of this huge total. I'm not seeing anybody jump off the page as being an awesome play. The most interesting play in this game is Giannis for me. And if you want to do a Trae Young and Giannis, you can go ahead and do that. I don't think it's a priority for me, but I'm very open to it. But that's where I'm at. I think Giannis and Trae are both legitimately solid plays, and I don't think we need to play them.
Yeah. This is a very similar thing. I mean, I wouldn't mind playing either of them. It's going to be tough to spend up for anything, but I guess more to the point, I don't like anything else aside from those two. So it's either one of those two, both those two, or zero. I don't like any of the value coming out of this game. I don't know if we're able to afford to play them both. But I think, again, I think if no value, I mean, value is going to show up, but in case it didn't, I think you could pick one of those two and try to make it work. I think those two. I think that 2,000 is going to be important. So maybe I agree with you. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't like Giannis. Actually, you like Giannis more than Trey tonight, huh?
I think Giannis is being very strangely projected tonight. I think he should be projected for over 60. I got
him at 58. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but it's weird that he's scored 63 or more in what? Okay. 8 out of 10 games, 9 out of 11, and the only ones basically he doesn't get there are just complete smoke shows. In last night, even in the complete smoke show, like he's still in 27 minutes, he puts up 67, and now you have an even better matchup. Like, I don't know. So I could see Trey getting hot from the outside. I could see that being a thing. I mean, this was the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so getting those two together, I actually think that's a viable. Once we get the inevitable value, that's going to be one of the viable pairings that I think is out there for the spend ups. OKC, Minnesota, as we keep it rolling along here. We're doing great, Sheets. Great on timing so far. We've got the obvious Shea play, and we've got a bunch of other stuff for OKC, which sort of is always the case. I would lean Roby above everybody else. That's probably, actually, I think that's actually a really good play. And on Minnesota, it's going to depend on the 5 Q tags. I honestly don't know how to assess if they're out. If Russell's out, and even if the other guys play, I'm in. If Russell and Edwards are out, I'm in on Towns. If Russell's out and Beverly, I'm in on Edwards too. So I'm going to probably mix those guys up, but Minnesota is just a huge question mark at the moment, and we're not going to know early. So even more of the reason to fade. Or sorry, we might know early, but we might not know on everybody before lock. What do you have in this one, Sheets?
Yeah. So the only thing that I did that bailed me out last night is Shea single-handedly helped me min cash the monster on FanDuel last night.
Yeah, he was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he scored 70, and that made up for I had him, Andre Drummond, and 7 snowflakes, and I cashed in the monster somehow. On FanDuel. He may not
play tonight, by the way.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. As Milwaukee pulled their guys out, they left Shea in for a couple more rotations. I would not be opposed to fading him tonight if he becomes popular. If for example, it becomes that slate where the 10-2 is really important as opposed to the 12,000. I mean, I'm staring at 20% ownership on him right now, on a 100,000 game slate, just because the back-to-back off really good performance, whatever it is. I wouldn't mind fading him. And it is, in a way, a scary fade if he plays, because, I mean, we always like to play guys against Minnesota, and Shea has just been a fantasy point monster, to say, it's him and DeJounte Murray are the two best fantasy performers in the world right now that are right. Not, all NBA, right? So Shea is definitely projecting as a good play. He's projecting as the best of those 10, sub 11K guys. But got to fade somebody. I don't know. For me, coming off a 70-point performance on a back-to-back, that would be my attempt. Okay. I like at Minnesota. I'm going to whine a little bit. One thing I did the other day is I kept getting to 30% Naz Reid when those guys were out. Whoa. And I'm like, why am I playing him? I mean, I don't want to play Naz Reid.
But there was nobody that even lent himself to Reid. All of those positions were locked up.
Well, that was my point, right?
Yeah.
So and I kept Xing him out, and then I reran it again, and it still wanted to give it to me. And I'm like, what? Screw Naz Reid. And he ended up getting 12X on me. You know what I mean? It's annoying.
I can't believe he actually, I mean, that's pretty wild. Also, he only played 20 minutes too. It's
right. It was, exactly. So anyway, I don't like him. I don't like him today, but I do like Cat. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Again, if we're trying to go below 11K, Cat certainly makes a lot of sense. But like you said, you got to see who's playing.
Yeah,
these Minnesota guys. What is Edwards? Edwards is
feels like a good spot for Minnesota to rest people, but they've been resting him a little bit.
Questionable. And unfortunately, this is 8 o'clock. So we might not get it before. Well, I mean, it's not like there's incredible decisions you have to make at 7.
No,
not
yet.
It's going to be important to know.
Yeah, not yet. There's really not. But we're going to hear something throughout the day. And that may be the weirdest thing about Shea is that, like, okay, so it's a traveling back-to-back for a team that's tanking, but I don't know. Maybe it's kind of worth it to let him go through this little run he's on. He has the highest usage rate in the NBA with Giddey out.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's like it's almost 37% ish. He's playing against a team that you'd want to play him against. There is always blowout risk, as we've talked about, but there's always is for them, and he still always gets there pretty much. He only put up 49 against these guys last time. I'm pretty sure that was a blowout, but I don't have it right in front of me. This is going to be a wait and see game for everything for me. I do like Shea at first glance, but if all these guys for Minnesota do sit, like, it's possible, because this is the kind of matchup you would do that. Then maybe you could get into like some stacking-ish situations, but right now I'm going to assume that at least a couple play for Minnesota. And as of right now, I'm just going to probably hold on that game. It could be a very interesting game. Right now, it's not so interesting to me because I want to see who's playing for OKC and I want to see who's playing for Minnesota. And I know OKC doesn't have the Q tags, but that doesn't mean they aren't coming. All right, you want to start us off with Orlando and Portland?
You think it's Portland, but it's New Orleans, even though it's CJ McCollum. That's the thing.
Why did I do this? Like, and that's such a weird thing. You're right. Sorry, go ahead, Sheets.
Meanwhile, the world was lucky that game kind of blew out after a while because CJ McCollum was on his way to 100 for a while there.
I ended up with like 40% of CJ. So I actually
I had some of him too. He did not pair well with my Valanciunas though.
Same here, buddy.
And then it was a little bit of a sweat whether I was going to be really upset that I played RJ. What's his name? Yeah, he did fine. I mean, he did okay. He did well enough, I guess. RJ Hampton, but doesn't matter because none of my other line. It wouldn't have mattered to any of my lineups anyway. So tonight, again, the value stinks. RJ Hampton again. Barely, not really. Don't really like anything on Orlando. And then on New Orleans, I mean, you can't really deny, like you said, CJ McCollum. I mean, he's been just been doing it. And if Ingram remains out somehow, I think he's going to do it again. I mean, 8,900. I mean, why not? And then I would go right back to Valanciunas. I mean, I know, like you said, he doesn't usually do. I don't know if this is still the case, but we used to not want to play him on back-to-backs.
Yeah, but he only
did he even play last? But he didn't even play. He played 20 minutes. Yeah. So did he play 20 minutes just because he was bad? I mean, like,
no, they were getting killed.
Well, they didn't kill to the fourth, I don't think.
No, they were down by 30 at halftime.
Oh, were they? Oh.
Or 20 something, I think.
Yeah. So you know what? Good on them for resting him. Then I'll go back to him. That's actually. I think
he also had foul trouble early on. So
no, he had 0 fouls last night.
Oh, really? That's weird. Yeah. And I don't really know.
At Memphis, I mean, like, come on, man, give him get a game. You know what I mean? Like, what else you got to do? So I'll go for that. I'll go back to Valanciunas.
Yep. All right. So I like McCollum, and if Ingram's out, it's always weird the jump shooters on a back-to-back when they've been really active. He only played 31 minutes, so it's not like he played his normal, like, or his crazy number of minutes, but it was a lot of minutes for a game that was pretty much over, which is a little weird because they need to win games right now. But I think all of those guys are in play. I think that Herb Jones, if we don't get other outstanding value, is okay to pair with some of those other guys. I think he's fine. Again, it's really hard because nothing's really crazy standing out to me, but it depends on whether Ingram plays. If Ingram plays, Ingram's a good play. So I have it one of the three as of right now. But the funny part is, like, the early projections, they're projecting Ingram to outscore McCollum straight up, which just hasn't been the case since they've been together. We've seen some big Ingram games, but we've seen even bigger McCollum games, but they've both been great. So one of them is usually going to smash in this kind of spot. I'm struggling with, it just depends on who plays, I guess. If Ingram's in, I probably would take a shot on Ingram. If he's out, I definitely like McCollum. And either way, I think we can play Joe Val. He's probably my favorite of the bunch going up against the big Magic. It doesn't bother me that you've got, pretty solid interior defenders. We just saw a nice game from Ayton last night in this sort of a similar-ish spot. against this team. If Suggs is out, I'm going right back to Hampton because the most important thing we're missing here that I was saying was the thing that worried me about Hampton last night, or worried me about for all the guards and all the plays for Orlando, is that you have Fultz off the bench, who's going to be the usage guy when he's in. And now we have no Fultz. So you could actually argue RJ Hampton even with Suggs in. But I think with Suggs out, he's going to end up, if Suggs is out, I think he ends up becoming like a tremendous play without the bench mob of what's his name, the Markelle Fultz. So I'm into Suggs again, and everybody else is just a fringy play for me. I keep over and over going through. He'll have some down stretches in games, but Wendell Carter is just really, really good, and I never mind getting to him, but I don't think it's a priority for me here. I think maybe Cole Anthony on FanDuel is a little more interesting, but people look at the game he had last night and no one wants to play him. If Suggs is out, I would say that's a mistake. He also really gets hurt by the Markelle Fultz usage, and Fultz was playing better than all of these guys were. So Fultz being gone is a big deal. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this one. We can move on to New York and Dallas. What do you think about your Knicks?
Nothing. I mean, it's a slow game. I if anything, I'll try to play Luka. But again, in the absence of value, it's just tough to get to those 12K guys. So probably gonna end up off of this game.
Yep. I actually like some of the Knicks. I think that Mitch Robinson is gonna sit personally. What are we gonna do, Sheets, in that situation? Is it too big of a slate? And at the moment, the answer is going to be no. It's not too big of a slate because we don't have value to play Taj Gibson. But if you lose Robinson, I run through that same position here. Do you necessarily need the big? Can you just play Randall at the 5? But Gibson's still going to get like 20 something minutes anyway. He would become moderately interesting, and I think it's actually a bigger boost than people realize for like Randall. But I think Alec Burks is the main one. Burks and Barrett are both fine. I don't love the game matchup, but I can't argue that like you were saying, Barrett's taken 18 or more shots now in like 10 straight games. That just gives you an opportunity. You know what I mean? You're going to have a chance, and that's good enough for me. So I don't mind these guys, but they're not priorities. I am going to just go back to that. Luka is, I mean, Luka and Giannis, but for me today are very, very close. Maybe you give the edge to Giannis because of the matchup, but I have them as really close, and I have Luka as a guy I really want to play on FanDuel. When he keeps the turnovers down, because he always ends up with like 1 to 3, or he's like 7, 8, 9 kind of a thing. And those extra points really hurt you on FanDuel. Like if you end up with 1 versus 9, that's 8 points. But I really like Luka. In every matchup, I just think going forward, they're trying to win every game. They're riding him. You're gonna have probably Brunson back tonight. He's probable. So I'm personally probably just on Luka at the moment. Kleber will show up as an early value, but I don't think so. But Luka, Burks, Barrett, and Randall are all interesting to me. I'm not going to cross any of them out, but Burks and Luka being my favorites.
Find it amazing. Not even amazing. It's kind of cool, actually, that you go back like a couple of years when DeJounte Murray was just coming in and Pop would just totally manage his minutes. You know what I mean? Like you'd have him like really bring him along slow, and then he had the ACL, but not whatever. And now he is just playing a zillion minutes a night and getting there every night. So it's it's an 11-3 guy who's going to score 55 fantasy points. He just is. So I definitely like that. Toronto, Siakam, I guess, would be my favorite. I don't know. Has Van Vliet played? I don't even know. But I guess I like both of those guys if they play. If I presume they play, if they play. So maybe something like DeJounte Murray with Van Vliet, maybe with Siakam. Siakam at 9,500 seems like rough. But that's what I like. I like, again, more, hopefully I can make these guys fit, but I do like DeJounte Murray a lot.
Yeah, Fred Van Vliet at 7,300 on FanDuel, assuming that he plays, I really like.
Oh, okay.
They really finally hiked up the prices on everybody else, so you even have some decisions to make if there is no FVV. Now, this matchup, I'm just going to say against the Spurs is premium. I will go right back to Scotty Barnes. I'll go to Scotty Barnes anyway, even with Van Vliet in on FanDuel especially. But I mean, this guy has got a ceiling. We just saw, I mean, he's put up 50 the other night. Siakam I like, but again, it's not as Siakam is like way too cheap on FanDuel and I don't know, say too expensive, but probably more than I want to pay for him on DraftKings. I do want pieces of this game, and I want to mix in some Bouchers and basically that's, you know, maybe I'd even take a shot on Precious. I want to get exposure here because I do like DeJounte Murray a lot. And I will on FanDuel again. This feels like a very FanDuel stack game. You know, DeJounte Murray's he's 10-2 over there. You've got the cheap Van Vliet, who no one's going to play even if he plays. You've got Siakam at 83. You've got Barnes at 72. Just everybody makes more sense on FanDuel. So this feels like a FanDuel stack to me, and that's probably the way I'll treat it. On DraftKings, I still think they're all in play, but nobody's like a must-have or anything like that. And it's probably worth noting for San Antonio that I still like Murray in this matchup. Even though it's a tough matchup, I just think that I can't argue with what he's been doing. It's kind of hard. You do have a revenge for Podol, but he really could let us down the other night, but you know, that happens. He's had a few really down games in a row, and you're getting Lonnie Walker back. You're getting Vassell back. I don't know. It's not as good of a spot as it was before, but I will take the game stack approach on FanDuel. What do you think about Denver, Sacramento?
Broken record. Not a lot of value on either of these sides. So what can you play? Sabonis is a really, really strong play today in the context of the slate. I like him. Obviously, Jokic is a good play every night, but 12-2 or whatever he is going to be tough to get to. So unless I can find a way to do it, he's probably just not going to make it for me, which means he's probably going to end up making it because you're probably going to be able to get some guys. He is projecting to be a really, really strong play. So if value opens up where you can play him, great. I think that my priority for this game as is probably going to be, what's his name, is going to be Sabonis. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, I don't know how this affects, but the guy we've been waiting to cash for 100,000 on, Holmes is out tonight. He's out personal. So I don't know how that might affect the rest of the rotation. But I just figured if you didn't know, I'd just let you know that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that. It's a bunch of do we take this shot or not? Now the great game environment. It's really hard to see Luka not having a big game here for me. Ooh. I'm sorry for Jokic. I always get Luka. I always that with you, Luka and Jokic. I think he's my preferred if I have to get to one of them. Giannis and Luka are all very close, but I think you give a little bit of the edge to Giannis and Jokic just for the matchups. The Jermichael Green, Bones Highland, who's questionable, and Will Barton's questionable also. Actually really like Will Barton if he plays. I think this is, again, the kind of matchup where you could see him really go nuts. He put up 44 against these guys last time. He's 5,100 on FanDuel. So Barton, if he's in, is I think a tremendous play, especially on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, it's kind of hard to love any of this. The Jermichael Green thing is just completely, his range of outcomes are 3 and 30. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of high variance guys. And if Bones Highland and Barton miss, then we can talk about doing some other things and including Monte Morris into the mix. See how the starting lineup shakes out. But again, this game doesn't start till 10. So you're going to probably want to know some of that information beforehand, and I'll do my best to dig before our show, but it's probably going to be tough stuff to figure out. And on the Sacramento side, so they keep trading off what they project because every last game looks like, oh, Mitchell. I'll just point out that Mitchell hasn't scored 20 fantasy points since the All-Star break and since the trade deadline. And he's projected to be popular and projected for over 20 fantasy points. And every time that happens, I go, well, nothing's really that different. If Jeremy Lamb is out, that would open up some things for both he and DiVincenzo, who are both in play anyway. Mitchell and DiVincenzo, I think, are fine, but I'm hoping for better value. And I really like Sabonis here, as well as taking a long shot on Fox, but I think Sabonis would be my preference. This is a good game. I mean, if you do play Jokic and we get value today, you can play Jokic with Sabonis on the other side pretty easily. If we get that, I think that value is going to come in. So I'm just going to sort of hold my breath on that. And then maybe you could even include another Mitchell or DiVincenzo to the game stack along with Jokic on the other side and potentially one of the guards too.
This next game is not a good game.
No, it's not.
what's whatever the spread is, it's too low. I mean, like
they finally made it 17 on these guys, and I still think it's too low. I agree with you.
And now it's not even a game where you can play all these other dudes, because not only they priced them up, and now Simons is back. So it's I'm probably avoiding most of this. If anything, you know what? But it's a slate where I'll probably not even try. If I can play Donovan Mitchell, even though, it might not require his full effort to get it done. I mean, maybe it's enough. So I like him. Gobert, 7,800 is too cheap. And again, if he plays his even 30 minutes, could get a billion rebounds in this game. So I like both those guys, nobody really else. And right now, I don't really see too much on Portland that I want to play.
Yeah, so the only issue would be if Simons does sit again.
Oh, yeah.
What do we do with Brandon Williams?
Just play him.
On FanDuel, I could argue that even at the way things currently, if the slate was locking in 10 minutes, I would probably play Brandon Williams on FanDuel at the minimum, even with Simons probably back. Because if you're right on that one, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't give him the run with Simons. I mean,
exactly. I mean, hasn't he earned a little bit of run?
Yeah, that's how I think. I mean, I know they still want to get looks at the Keon Johnson thing, and they've got a bunch of other guys, but they don't need to play Elijah Hughes and Keegan Blevins and all these other guys, all the minutes that are projected. I do think it's kind of interesting to think about the Watford and Eubank situation on FanDuel. Sorry to keep going to FanDuel things, but that's because the pricing does, lends itself more to these guys. I think both Eubanks and Watford are really good plays on FanDuel, even if you think they get blown out. And Watford tends to get the blowout run more, or at least he did the other night. It could go either way. But both those guys are, I think, interesting plays. Watford on FanDuel. On DraftKings, a little harder to get to him if Simons is in, because just the usage goes elsewhere. But I do want to point out that the Bogdanovic, they moved him up a little bit. He's 4,700 on FanDuel in a good matchup for 3-point shooting. I don't think I need to play him or anything. I mean, Conley's getting cheap enough. Clarkson is probably my favorite play here. And, we've seen it before. You get the blowout run and Clarkson puts up, 40 plus in the blowout run. So I actually think Clarkson is a really good play. So that's, and again, you're right about Gobert. People aren't going to play him. And it's such a good matchup that it's kind of interesting to play him. I don't know. It's just hard for me to see this game staying even remotely close. And I don't really want to mess with it personally. All right. Washington's LA. What do you got here?
Okay. So this is, again, how lucky am I? I still managed to cash in this monster yesterday with all the snowflakes, not the least of which being I was in the money already, and I had just Reggie Jackson left. And he was an abomination, right? And that's 2 straight games of him being an abomination I don't know if they look blowout, whatever. I don't know how that game actually shook out. They ended up losing by 15, but he was 2 for 14 in 28 minutes. The game before, he was 4 for 18 in 27 minutes. So that's not good. I don't know what his price is though on FanDuel. Is Reggie Jackson somehow under 8K on FanDuel still somehow?
On FanDuel, he's 7,100.
7,100? Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll try it. I mean, one thing that's common is that the games he doesn't play that many minutes, the games where he can't make a shot. So if he starts making shots, maybe he plays a bunch of minutes. I'm really stretching, for anything to do, because I really don't like anything in this game. So maybe I don't know. Amir Coffee always shows up as a 5x value who doesn't do anything. Maybe that'll definitely be my late pivot if I'm doing poorly early. Is just going to Reggie. But aside from that, it seems like a pretty bad game.
Yeah, from an overall strategy standpoint, I think the right thing to do is while we don't have value, to use the Clippers as your speculative value so you can pivot off. You know what I'm saying? Like if the slate starts right. So my early builds will include more Clippers than my late builds probably will.
Like Luke Kennard and Coffee and all that.
Kennard, Coffee, Batum put up 30 fantasy points last night. And,
did he?
Yeah, I'm looking at a projection for 27 minutes from him, which he hasn't played since February 14th. And he's been good on back-to-backs this season. He's 3.6 on FanDuel. So I think he's a good play over there. But yeah, Coffee, Batum, probably that's just about it for me. I am just wondering, I mean, the rotations are all over the place with the Clippers. We know how they play. It's hard to, it's just you're speculating on everybody really, because they run a deep rotation and they play a lot of bodies and they play the hot hand game basically, which is how they've been able to survive like they have. So I'll use the Clippers as my early potential value. I'm just gonna take a quick look at how many minutes Coffee played. He played 30 last night. He's played 30 back-to-back. It's not ideal that you end up with these guys, but that is the way I'm going to build, because I'm going to assume we get better value throughout the night. And I think that the one guy who does stand out or the two guys who stand out as interesting plays are KCP and Kyle Kuzma. No one wants to play Kyle Kuzma at 9,100 in general. I mean, he's done nothing worse than 5x 5 games in a row, and he had 260s in there. He's got a ceiling. He's coming back to LA. It's not the Lakers, but it's back in LA. Same thing with KCP. So I actually don't mind those guys, and right now they're placeholders. And it's funny because I'm looking through to go through my highlighted guys for the slate, and it's just so many question marks. Like Şengün is probably going to be everywhere for me if Christian Wood is out.
Okay,
the Lakers and Houston, depending on LeBron, but that game stands out as a potentially stackable game, depending on who else sits for Houston. Denver, Sacramento, that seems like a very stackable game, and we don't need a bunch of sitting. Just there's the one piece of Barton and Bones Highland, which could open up something. And then Minnesota, OKC is the other game stack. I think I'd go Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Luka tonight. I think that all three of those guys are really good plays. It's Shea looks like a really good play off the bat. I don't mind a Giannis Trey run back. I don't mind. I like Terry Rozier. I like Jaylen Brown. But these are not the most exciting plays, and especially the guys in the early games are probably going to be moved a little bit down. Like I'm picture them with a 5 point less projection or something like that, because I just think unless we hear about it throughout the day, which we might, I just think there's going to be too many good spots to attack if some inevitable value, which always opens even on like 6 game slates, if it opens on the Big 12 gamer tonight. So that's what I'm doing. And Sheets, any final thoughts on this? Sorry, real quick. I want to go through my FanDuel. I do have some more priorities. I like Brown, Levine, Cade, Westbrook, Murray, Fred VanVleet, Barnes, Siakam, Barton, Jackson, and Batum are my first look. And then Watford or Eubanks, I expect to be a 6x player tonight on FanDuel. So those are my guys.
All right.
That's it. Okay. All right. Good luck to everybody. We're coming back with a golf video, and we hope you guys absolutely crush it tonight. And we'll be with you live at 5:45. Good luck.